day to you and your lot. They call me Asses and Beamish, and today I'm doing something that's a little bit different than usual, but just a little bit. Instead of talking about movies, trying to explore them a little bit, albeit not too well. I'm not very good at it yet, and instead of talking about movies that I find them to be enjoyable right now, or like I mentioned in I think my last video of my guilty pleasures, I wanted to instead talk about movies that I used to really love, and whether or not this day and age I still really like them as much as I did once, that's optional. But these are the movies that, in a way, that kind of define my taste, my sense of taste, and these are basically my favorite movies from when I was a kid. Which, since none of them really is made for children, it's going to be a kind of strange scenario right now, and you're probably going to get to understand a little bit more about why I am the way I am, probably. So you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Let's start with a banger. Let's start with let me try and aim it so that it doesn't reflect the light so much as it did on the Guilty Pleasures video. Let's start talking about Pitch Black. Now, Pitch Black, it's one of my favorite movies from when I was young. At the time I was renting it, I was renting the DVD version already, but it actually was a different cover that I'm going to try and find and put it somewhere on the screen. One of my favorite movies from childhood. At the time I had no idea who Vin Diesel was. At the time I had no idea who any of the people in this movie were. But what can I say, dude? I just like the idea of, this group of people, none of them particularly, trained or anything to dealing with monsters, just a bunch of civilians traveling to space. That's already an interesting thing. They crash land by accident into this planet that it just happens to be filled to the brim with beasts that, they lurk in the darkness and they cannot be on sunlight, are carnivorous, and they want to kill these people. And the thing is, for the most part of the film, they're on a planet that has 3 suns. You would think that's no problem, right? So long as they stay away from caves. But then the freaking planet goes into, an eclipse that is supposed to last like a year or something. They never specify, but it's supposed to last a long time. It's not just going to be a couple days. It's a long time of an eclipse where it's all pitch black. It's complete darkness, and so they have to survive this scenario. And that's where Riddick, the character of Richard B. Riddick, Dick Riddick, Vin Diesel, he comes into play. And what can I say? I just really liked it. It's a fun movie. It's still to this day a fun movie. I watched it again a few days ago. It's still a thrill. It's still a ride. It's not quite as good as I remember, but hey, what can I say? It's still a fun watch. It's still a fun watch. I may talk about them more in detail later. Let's just go right through them because I don't have that much time. Alright, fuck it. Let's bring it up. Another one would be this one right here. Now, you may not be able to recognize it just by the cover, although a lot of people probably will, or the title because it's in Spanish. But this one, it's Deep Blue Sea. This movie did a number on me because, on the one hand, I'm really afraid of the ocean, and movies like that or Jaws did not help. But on the other hand, I really like monster movies and I really like big animal movies, and this one is, one of the prime examples of a giant shark movie, without straight up going to megalodon territories such as the Meg did. It's just a fun movie, A bunch of people this time, again, it's always a bunch of people who are like in a particular scenario, usually trapped, and that's just, what makes them usually good. In this case, they're trapped under sea, they're trapped in this underwater labs, this system of laboratories and whatnot, and they're conducting experiments on sharks. The main scientists of this project, they're illegally and very, kind of stupidly altering these sharks genetically to make them larger and whatnot. And by doing that, these sharks also become incredibly smart and, capable of basically wanting to escape and and if they do, it's very likely that if they start breeding and whatnot, they're just going to start making more intelligent sharks and whatnot. It's going to be a big problem. And they did this because the protagonist is just trying to find the cure for Alzheimer's, which, it's a noble cause, I guess, but at the same time, dude, there has to be a better way of doing it than fucking altering sharks, okay? They're already fucking incredible killer machines. You are just making them even more incredible. In reality, nowadays we know that sharks are actually kind of docile for the most part, or they kind of just hang there. They're just chill. They just want to be around. They occasionally kill people, and when they attack humans, it's very rarely that they do it, thinking that, oh, we're attacking humans. No, they usually think that there's like a seal or something like that, another animal of sea that they usually hunt. But for the most part, sharks are just cool, man. They're just fine, and these movies they don't make it easy on them. A few of them movies that I want to talk about, I don't actually have them physically, so I'll just put again the poster somewhere on the screen. Another one would be Crocodile from 2000, from the year 2000. I mentioned it briefly in my Captain Spaulding video. It was made by Tobe Hooper, the guy who made Poltergeist and the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it is an odd movie. It is I in another video also talked about the movie Deep Star 6, which it's another underwater movie, also dealing with monsters. And the thing is that I always felt that that movie had a bit of talent thrown into it just by the fact that it was Sean Cunningham that directed it. Now, the movie Crocodile, I feel like from all of the giant creature movies that are out there, it kind of stands out a little bit. It's incredibly generic. You would not believe how fucking generic this movie is. It's literally a bunch of, college students getting drunk in like a boathouse, and a freaking crocodile starts stalking them. Mind you, it doesn't just start killing them out of the blue. These guys actually steal one of these crocodile's eggs. I think, yeah, like a bunch of two drunk fishermen had already broken the crocodile's eggs. Only one of them remained, and one of these guys freaking steals it. And so the crocodile starts hunting them down, wanting, its egg back. When you think about it, considering that this movie came out 1 year before Jurassic Park 3, you could almost say like, oh, I think they sort of had a similar idea for the raptors there, You watch the movie anyway. But yeah, it's a movie about that, and it's literally just that. It's literally just the crocodile fucking killing these guys. When I was a kid, I actually used to feel bad for these guys. Nowadays, I fucking whatever, kill them. But at the time, I actually felt bad for them. Especially this one girl in the movie. I don't remember if she just like twisted her ankle or got trapped in like a root or something. But the point is, she got trapped at some point and she cannot stop screaming. She's so afraid of the crocodile that's coming to her, and the crocodile eats her. And when I was a kid, I was like, man, that's bad. That's freaking sad. This girl was just begging for her life and whatnot. But as an adult, I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I mean, I would still feel bad for someone who went through that, but now I feel more like it's just a silly movie, man. I'm just here to enjoy it. Another one would be, and this one's a bit of an odd one. Another one would be Godzilla 2000 or Godzilla Millennium. I found out with so many titles online, man, that it's just crazy. But that's another movie that I could not stop renting when I was a kid. This movie, like you can see, I already had. But Pitch Black, Crocodile, and this movie, Godzilla 2000, I could not, for the life of me, stop renting these movies when I was a kid, I just love watching them. And my dad, he never got it. My dad does not like monster movies, not as much as I do, or definitely not all of them. And he never understood it properly, like, what was it? What was my fascination with them? I just like them. I like the idea of these giant monsters being around and killing people, It was scary when I was a kid, but at the same time, it was oddly fascinating. I'm pretty sure that, when I was a kid, I also was obsessed with dinosaurs. I loved dinosaurs. I wanted to be one, first of all. But, as I started to grow up a little bit, like when I was 6 years old, I really wanted to be a paleontologist. Then, a bunch of stuff happened, that dream went down the hill. I just stopped pursuing that. But, to this day, I still find them fascinating. All sorts of animals, predators, large predators, and dinosaurs. I still find all of those creatures fascinating. So, there is that, I guess that to this day, there's still something like that in my psyche. And so, all of these movies fascinated me. In the case of Godzilla 2000, it was mostly just the fact that I liked the idea of these giant monsters dueling in the city. Not to mention that it was odd to me. It was really odd, because I had the idea of what Godzilla was, of who Godzilla was. Bear in mind, a big chunk of my notion of what Godzilla was came from the Americanized Godzilla, Godzilla, the snot-nosed 1998, it was not good. So watching Godzilla fighting against this, because that's the other thing, in the movie the freaking monster, in typical Japanese fashion goes through a bunch of transformations. He arrives like this giant freaking UFO sort of thing, this giant like egg, like oval thing, that then turns into like a squid, and then it mutates into Orga. Which is this creature that could apparently, like, I think he could eat stuff and sort of absorb their powers or mimic them. And so, at some point it starts sort of mimicking Godzilla and sort of can replicate some of his attacks and his strength. But in the end, as they're dueling, Godzilla just kills them. So, you have to watch the movie. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. All Godzilla movies are good to a degree, man, if you like that stuff. Let's also bring up the big guns. Predator. Let me put it this. Predator, I'm not sure if you can see it. Now, this particular presentation I don't think that I've ever actually found it exactly as it is ever again. As you can see, this one was also bought in Mexico instead of in the United States. And I really like Predator. It's to this day my favorite movie of all time. I watch it at least once a year because, man, it's just so freaking good, dude. It's so freaking good. And I know you could argue that, oh man, it's one of the most macho movies ever made. But hey, you know what? That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, you know? It's not like they're, well, they actually did punch that. Okay, so they did beat up Pide Carrillo and also, you know, drag her around. Look, the point is that it's a movie that I feel anyone can enjoy, not just guys, okay? But it's probably something that appeals mostly to guys, probably. Because let's be honest, it's basically just... the movie to me feels like what any kid, when they were, you know, small, they would grab their toys and would start like playing with it. It's something like that, you know. It's basically that would come to life. These guys, you know, for the movie, they got so fucking buffed that they actually look like action figures. So yeah, it's basically just that. It's a movie about a bunch of you know, a special team of rescuers in this case, but you know, they all have military training, and they go and they decimate this gorilla. It's a great fucking scene, by the way. They decimate the gorilla. It was edited to shit, but hey, doesn't matter. They decimate the gorilla, and they you know, and that's the other thing. They do not walk away, you know, completely unharmed. They also have bruises and, you know, cuts, and Blaine got shot. I don't have time to bleed. All that, yes, you know, I don't have time to bleed. All of that, yes. And then the Predator is there, and that's one of the things that I really like about that movie. It's not only a movie where the characters are obviously not invincible, but if anything, they just make them look even more badass. And that's the other thing. They actually show us how badass they are by showing us just 7 guys take out a whole group of guerrilla soldiers, you know, warriors. So, you know, they show you how badass they are, and then they show you going up against the Predator and getting completely decimated, like in seconds, the first 2 of them. Literally, in less than, I think, 5 minutes of movie time, and probably also 5 minutes realistically, the Predator killed 2 of them. So that's a fucking big thing, man. And then the rest of the movie happened. So, you know, I could talk about this movie for all day long, but honestly, I don't think that I can say anything that hasn't been said already. So let's just move on. So basically, those are the 5 movies that I mostly wanted to talk about. However, you may have noticed this also on the thumbnail, but there's also a few other movies that I wanted to bring up. Not necessarily so much because, as the movies that I already mentioned, they were some of my favorites, but because I watched them, and even though I watched them only once, I could remember most of them, you know, through most of my life, and they also did have something to do with sort of what I started to find as, you know, what I liked, or what at least I found fascinating. One of them would be Python, another movie that I also rented at least twice when I was a kid, and I really liked it. It is a fun movie. It's also a movie with a giant animal, in this case a giant python. I don't even remember if the python was supposed to have venom, you know, poison in this one or not, because pythons do not have they're not poisonous snakes, but you know, I don't remember if they decided to do something like that for this movie. I don't think so. I think it was just a giant python that it literally, I think it was like an experiment or something. I don't remember the details. They had it. They were transporting it in an airplane, in a military airplane. The python escapes. The plane crashes into this, you know, the outskirts of this small city, small town in America, and the freaking python just starts eating people all over the town. It's you know, a pretty straightforward movie. This one I only watched it once, but I never were able to. I was never able to fully forget it. It's Ghosts of Mars. John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. Let's talk about Ghosts of Mars for just 1 second. Realistically speaking, Ghosts of Mars, it's basically if someone had grabbed that like true minute scene, the Broadway scene from Escape of New York, you know, when they're in the taxi and trying to passing through Broadway and they get attacked. Somebody basically took that scene and made a whole movie around it, which would be weird and even somewhat, you know, like stupid if it wasn't because it was the same director, you know, John Carpenter. He made that and he made Ghosts of Mars. And also, to make an even further connection, Ghosts of Mars was originally supposed to be a Snake Plissken movie, just as Escape from New York. So, you know, I think that is actually not such a crazy idea now. It's actually pretty, you know, it actually kind of makes sense. So that's kind of what they did for this movie. It's pretty violent, it's pretty graphic in its depiction of the mutilation of the body that the Martians do on, you know, the killings and whatnot. I swear to God, when I was a kid, this movie, you know, it freaking terrified me. I was so afraid of the Martians, you know, of the people, you know, because again, it's a pretty graphic fucking movie. For a kid, that was like, Jesus fucking Christ, what's going on here, right? These people that are freaking kill, oh my God, what are they doing to themselves? Oh God, it was horrifying. My parents, they allowed me to watch a lot of shit that I probably shouldn't have. It did help to sort of define a sense of taste, which is what I have these days, and it's what I try to do. I like to speak out with these movies now. I really like them. Ghost of Mars, I actually consider putting Ghost of Mars as one of my guilty pleasures. The main difference being that, not really. I like it now, but I don't like it as much as I like the other movies, which is why I didn't include it. But I still like Ghost of Mars. It is a fun movie. It is a fun thing to do. It's sort of funny. I was never able to forget, the guy killing himself inside of that little car, the freaking head severing, dude, all of that shit. I was never able to forget it. And I actually really like the way that Big Daddy Mars is the name of the character, by the way he dies, which is freaking screaming like ah. Okay, so Ice Cube detached some compartments of a train that they were traveling in, and he had put some bombs in it, some dynamite, and the freaking thing started exploding, and Big Daddy Mars is just screaming his heart out, and he blows up. It's a fun movie, it's a pretty badass movie. Actually, I was talking to my sister and I was telling her, this movie is pretty badass, and it's really fucking stupid. And she told me that's basically the 80s, and I was like, oh my god, dude, that is the best way that I've ever heard someone define the 80s. They were really badass and also pretty fucking stupid. So yeah, this movie is a great example of that. And those are basically the movies that... You know what? Give me 1 sec. Okay, so another 2 movies that I also think I have to talk about real quick, just before I forget. Alright, let's go with this. Let's start with Mimic. Okay, Mimic, wow. Another movie that I also watched when I was young, it's Guillermo del Toro. It is perhaps one of Guillermo del Toro's lower pieces of work. In general, in terms of quality as a film, it's probably one of his lesser films, if not his lesser film. And you know what? It's still a pretty kick-ass fucking movie, so, that just goes to show you how freaking talented Guillermo truly is. It's literally, again, giant monsters. It's a movie about giant insects this time. You've probably seen it. Some doctor, she starts starting insects and mixing them up to make this particular creature, the Judas breed, that is supposed to eradicate cockroaches in New York because they were spreading some disease. But then 3 years later, the freaking things have mutated and are huge and are killing humans now. So, a pretty standard movie. I really like that. It's one of the first movies that I watched where they sort of broke a lot of the rules that I felt movies, even horror movies, were supposed to, follow. And that was something that amazed me, and it made me love it even more. It was something that I had not seen anywhere before. I might actually talk about that someday. And just so I don't forget to mention, the last one will be Tremors. Now, this is the 4 first movies package, so... But the cover is the same as the first movie. The first Tremors, it's another movie that when I was a kid I also watched and fell thoroughly in love with. To the point that I probably had watched it like at least fucking dozen times also. Funny, my dad, I still remember, it was my dad actually who told me about this movie. This one wasn't one that I found by myself. He told me about it, like, oh yeah, it's a movie with giant worms under the earth or something like that. I was like, really? So he kind of spoiled a little bit what the little surprise that you're supposed to have the first time that you actually see the graboid, but hey, it was still fun to watch it. I'm running out of time. I usually try to make my recordings less than half an hour long, so that first of all, it's not such a hassle to edit them, and also it's the maximum amount of time that my camera allows me to record in a row, and I prefer that. I prefer to keep it one single recording and then just chop it down. So let me try and come with a proper conclusion to all of this. What can be said about these movies as a whole, not just as a bunch, not just individual, but as a bunch of movies? They are, for the most part, monster movies. Maybe not entirely monster movies, all of them, but I mean, realistically, what? Maybe, Ghost of Mars and Predator. Maybe they're the only ones that you could maybe say that are actually monster movies. But come on, they might as well be. They might as well be. It's the same thing as always. It's a bunch of guys. Most of them have no idea what they're facing off against, and they end up getting their asses kicked by both, in these cases, both alien species. One, the Predator, the freaking Jaja, a great species, and the other one, a bunch of possessed humans. So that one's so weird. But the point is, there are still monster movies, and there are movies that they all vary a lot in their quality. Crocodile and Python and Godzilla 2000. Are they good movies? Not really, dude. They're not good movies. I just told you, they're freaking generic to hell, and they're not good at all. But I love them, dude. They're still in my heart. Deep Blue Sea, it's kind of trashy, if I'm honest. It's kind of trashy. It has its moments, but it's kind of trashy. I still love it. What else? Ghost of Mars and Pitch Black. Realistically speaking, they don't hold up as well as they did when I was a kid. But hey, again, still have in my heart. Predator, my favorite movie to this day. Mimic and Tremors, probably the two better of all of these, you know. Also Predator. Predator and Mimic and Tremors are probably the best of the bunch. Again, still different qualities and still different styles. You know, one is Guillermo, one is, I don't even remember who the director of Tremors was, and the other one is Manternan. So, you know, different styles, different ways of doing movies, but they all worked. And they were all just actually good movies, even though they were monster movies, which is something that I feel is hard to do. And it's something that I recognize now, and it's something that as a kid I didn't fully value. I just like the monsters. I thought they were cool. And that's what I think is the core of this whole situation, this whole thing that I'm trying to say. You can have all the talent in the world, but at the end of the day, if you want to make a good monster movie, you just need to have some creativity and some, you know, fun ideas. And a good team to make the monster look good. And that's it, dude. You don't even need good actors, you don't even need that good camera work. You just need to have balls. Oh man, you know, this is taking too long already. And that's not a real message. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say right now. I'm stuck at this, man. I should stop doing videos. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. I'll see you later, you know, catch you on the flip side and whatnot. Thank you so much for coming here, my brethren. And that's not my outro. Have a good one, my brethren. I'll be catching you on the flip side. Se cuidan.